Good evening. My name is Stephanie Sandoval, and I'm going to be presenting about Erickson's psychosocial and the social emotional development. So, we know based on research that our relationships and interactions with others directly impacts and influences our daily life throughout adulthood. So, I'm going to go ahead and discuss and start with Erickson's 8 stages of psychosocial development. So the first of those stages is trust versus mistrust, and this is the first year of life, infancy. The second is autonomy versus doubt, which is the age of 1 to 2. Initiative versus guilt, which is at the age of 3 to 5. Industry versus inferiority is the ages of 6 to 12. Identity versus role confusion, which is 12 through 18 years of age. Intimacy versus isolation, which is at the age of 18 to 40. The seventh, which is generativity versus stagnation at the age of 40 to 65. And the eighth and last one is integrity versus despair, which is age 65 and up. So the first crisis that we're going to discuss is trust versus mistrust. And this is, obviously, we said the first year of life, dependent on the care of others. We're infants, we rely on somebody else for our daily needs. And obviously, if those daily needs are not met, that could lead to fear or suspicion. Obviously, being able to cry and not having somebody pick us up, or being hungry and not getting fed. The kind of general needs that we have, and if they're not met, obviously that can lead to very, very bad feelings later on, that we're not getting those needs met and that we won't get them met. The next one is autonomy versus doubt, and this is for the age of 1 to 2. And this is where we experience free will and independence as young toddlers. They are wanting to start doing things for themselves, maybe try their own shoes on or drink out of their own cup. And if we don't nurture that independence and those attempts at doing things, then that can later lead to an inadequacy or a low self-esteem. The next phase is initiative versus doubt, which is the ages of 3 to 5. At this age, toddlers through early education, early elementary, preschool, kindergarten, they're starting to explore. They're looking for purpose. They're questioning things. And this one, if we don't allow them to do that and explore and kind of find their way and, trial and error, that can lead to inadequacy later on as they grow, feeling they can't do it or they're afraid to do it now. Next one is industry versus inferiority, and that usually leads through age 12. So we're talking about the rest of elementary, 6 through 12. And this one, they're seeking competence and approval. So obviously, if they get good grades or they do good in school, they want that pat on the back. They want that acknowledgement and approval. And when they don't get it, that leads to a feeling of inferiority, that they're not good enough, that, they're never going to be good enough. And that can obviously snowball into things later on, which we definitely don't want. The next phase is identity versus role confusion. So this is the age of 12 through 18, and they're discovering who they are, what they want to be. They're kind of finding their way. At this age, if these things are not kind of fed and nurtured, and family or parents don't help them kind of find their way, it can definitely lead to rebellion. We see a lot of this, with making bad decisions, whether it's in school or outside of school, indulgence in alcohol, drugs, and whatnot. The next phase is intimacy versus isolation. And in this phase, they're actually involved in relationships. They're starting to, build that intimacy and love with one another, and, exploring what and who they are in a relationship. So in this, for those that maybe don't have that between the ages of 18 and 40, if they see others around them in relationships and happy and, they're progressing, they can feel that sense of isolation. They can feel unhappy, maybe depressed. Generativity versus stagnation. So on this point, between the ages of 40 and 65, we're building a family, we're raising families, we're, working on our career. Um, at this point, if we are not there, or we're not trying to get there in that process, maybe we're just stuck in a dead-end job, maybe we haven't had children yet, and we're over 40, we're starting to feel unproductive. Like, how am I never going to have it? I'm not going to have that good job, or I'm not going to be where this other. We start comparing, and we don't feel, as productive as somebody else. And the last phase is integrity versus despair. So at this time, we're in our 60s, 65 and up, and we're kind of reflecting on what we've done, what we've accomplished. We're trying to help those maybe around us, giving them advice. We're at peace with decisions we made, hopefully. And if we're not, and we're leaving with regret at this point, or things are just not going the way we would hope, obviously, at that time, then that can lead to a feeling of despair or dissatisfaction, bitterness, that kind of thing. So we're going to discuss next the social emotional development and how our childhood experiences and interactions, they help shape and form our future relationships that we have with peers, with friends, and with loved ones. So some key points we want to discuss. Responsive caregiving. So that is kind of learned from our families or our caregivers, starting from infancy, depending on how we were treated, how we were cared for, if we were nurtured and loved. Those are kind of the things we reflect on when we think of responsive caregiving. Emotional security. Were we feeling safe, and are we able to open up to people, or can we know that we're going to be heard and validated? Temperament. This is our natural state, like in our disposition, how we are kind of in a general state without being mad, upset, or anything. This kind of affects our mental, or physical, and our emotional dispositions as well. So how our voice is, how our physical, if we're always tense, if we're just kind of really laid back. When we talk about temperament, we're just kind of we say that's, that guy's just really chill. He's, really calm. That's usually what we're referring to. The emotional regulation, our ability to control or monitor our own bodily actions, our feelings, our thoughts, suppression when necessary. So we're talking about that if we were maybe pushed to a really bad situation and we want to react by fighting. The fact that we can control those physical, from punching, from, yelling, from doing things or saying things that we might regret. The fact that we're able to control those, that would be where emotional regulation comes into place. To continue on with those, the next one would be impulse control, and that's along the same line, the ability to suppress negative thoughts or actions or urges. Sometimes we, get upset and we want to go out and maybe binge drink, or we want to go out and do something really irresponsible. Those are that impulse control. We're able to just stop and not do it, or maybe focus on something else. Social understanding, being able to follow social norms with understanding. So knowing that certain things are just not acceptable. We just don't do certain things in public or around others. Such as we wouldn't just walk in front of somebody and burp in their face or pass gas in front of them. We wouldn't just, use foul language in front of, somebody of mature age. Just certain things that we are raised kind of automatically knowing, but some of us just didn't get that message, weren't taught those things. The next would be effective. So being effective means to be influenced by emotions. So when we're acting on something, being able to give a tissue to somebody because I saw that they were crying, I saw they were upset. Their emotions impacted me enough to get up and help them or to give them a hug. Empathy, being able to understand the emotion. So this is a little deeper where if I see somebody's telling me something that they're going through and it directly impacts me, I might cry. I might be really hit with it where it impacts even me and causes me to reflect on it, but that I really can relate to how they're feeling, or I can deeply understand what they're going through. Self-efficacy, belief that we have the ability to do a specific task. So even though it might be something really hard, being able to say, but I got it, I'm going to do it. Just that self-confidence in them, that they really, truly believe they can do it. And it doesn't matter what it is or who tells them what, they're going to do it. the sense of self means how one views himself inwardly. So it's not, I'm pretty or I'm tall. It's nothing outwardly or physical. It really means how we see themselves. So I can say I see myself as a really good person, or I tend to be honest, or I'm very giving. Those internal qualities that we view ourselves as. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to close it with relationships that we have, form from infancy again, and our parents and how they care for us. And if they continue to be nurtured as children and grow into adulthood, we should, in a perfect world, grow into a very healthy emotional adult. Um, our emotions and social behaviors are important for success in all that we do. It impacts our jobs, it impacts us as parents, spouses, and just human beings. Our consistent interaction with others provides for constant nurturing and security. And these interactions with our family and peers, they allow us to give advice and share advice and collaborate when we're at work or with peers or whatnot, and just really feed that part of our emotional being. Um, I think we forget how important our emotional side is. And I think we really, going forward, if we all really took time or took a minute to really reflect on it and give and feed that, I think we would all be much more healthier. Thank you.